Greece, the spoiled child of Europe. According to Greek mythology, the continent of Europe took its name from Princess Europa. Europa's children laid the foundations for today's Europe when they started from Crete and made their journey all over Europe. Greece was always seen as a source of philosophy and politics for other European countries, and was therefore in a privileged position. A supranational union was intended to continue for many years when the founding of the European Coal and Steel Community officially took place in 1952.
The prospects open to Europe today are the outcome of the decision of European countries not to treat their economic problem as national ones, but as common to them all. To solve this problem, they have adopted a new method of collective action.
In 1993, this community evolved into the European Union. Various policies were pursued for the continuation of an economically based supranational community.
We must combat the growing divergences in the economies of our member states, not of course by weakening the strong, but by strengthening the weak. Above all, we must remember our underlying and continuing purposes. Our means are and have been economic. Our end remains, as it was from the beginning, political.
The spillover effect was introduced to enhance the economic interaction between the member states of the European Union. In fact, this is the fundamental policy of the European Union in both economic and political terms. Member states leave certain matters to the decision of a supranational institution. In addition, stability is achieved and maintained by the EU countries helping each other economically. But if one of the member states uses the whole of this financial aid for itself, the chain breaks and the system doesn't work. Greece, which has pursued failed economic policies for years, is breaking that chain. The aid to Greece, which could hardly even contribute to the European Union, was not enough.
Λέμε όχι σε ένα τριετές σύμφωνο έκρηξης των κοινωνικών προβλημάτων, περαιτέρω διάλυσης των εργασιακών σχέσεων, κατεδάφισης του ασφαλιστικού συστήματος.
While internal turmoil continues in Greece, their policies are both damaging to the European Union and undermining stability in the region. Greece, which became an Ottoman protectorate in 1670 and remained under Ottoman rule for nearly 200 years, has always had a strained relationship with Turkey. When the Ottoman Empire was defeated in 1918, the Entente powers were preparing to share all remaining territory in the empire in order to prevent the Turkish state from joining the stage as an independent international player. After the war ended, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George established British rule in Iraq and Palestine and began to use Greece as Britain's proxy in Anatolia. He took part on behalf of Greece at the Paris Peace Conference held in February 1919. He claimed rights over the whole of Western Anatolia, Eastern Thrace, and all the Aegean Islands, with forged statistics showing that the majority of the population was Greek. At the end of a long debate, the plans of the Entente forces were determined by the Treaty of Service, which was reluctantly accepted by the government of the last Ottoman Sultan Vahdettin in August 1920. With this agreement, Izmir and its environs would be governed by Greece for the next 5 years, and then bound to Greece by decision of a local assembly. At the same time, Eastern Thrace was also being left to Greece. Nearly 2 years of national struggle resulted in the capture of Smyrna on September 11, 1922. Filled with excitement over their victory, the soldiers headed north to overcome the remaining Greek forces in eastern Thrace. But a small British garrison stationed in the Dardanelles blocked their way. But this situation could have resulted in a mutual acceptance of certain conditions without a fight. British, Turkish, Greek, French, and Italian military representatives met in Mundania on 3rd October and signed an armistice on 10th October 1922. With this treaty, the Greeks would withdraw from eastern Thrace to the Merik River within 30 days. At the Lausanne talks, the Greeks were left alone, unable to gain British support. The Maritsa River was designated as the land border between Turkey and Greece. With this agreement, it was agreed that the Aegean Islands should be given to Greece, 12 islands, especially Rhodes, to Italy, and Bozcaada and Gökçeada, which are near the entrance to the Dardanelles, to Turkey. The islands given to Greece would be demilitarized. Rhodes, the largest of the 12 islands, remained under Ottoman patronage for 4 centuries. Unfortunately, the islands of strategic importance were lost as a result of serious neglect. The tragedy that began with Italy's invasion of these islands immediately after invading Tripoli added to the lapses in the Lausanne Treaty. Rhodes and 12 islands in the Aegean Sea are a serious problem between Turkey and Greece. Due to its geographical location, Greece straddles Turkey's Aegean coasts and in this case triggers geopolitical issues. When the Lausanne talks began, 12 islands had been legally committed by the Italians to be returned to the Turks. However, the islands, described as the outposts of Anatolia, were lost at the table in the Lausanne talks. It is worth considering that İsmet İnönü, the leader of the delegation at the Lausanne talks, had met no resistance in other regions except Mosul and attached prime importance to economic independence. Following the apparent end of the Cold War in early 1990s, Turkish-Greek relations entered a new era. Although Turkey and Greece were together in the Western Bloc during the Cold War as 2 neighboring NATO member states, bilateral relations between the two have always been tense and distant. Greece caused a major crisis by not attending the NATO meetings in Ankara in 1973. From time to time, different leaders carried out visits between the countries and made some economic cooperation agreements.
We must solve our problems through peaceful discussion within the confines of international law. And if we are successful, and I will work very hard to be successful, so that we are successful. If we are successful, this will be a sign to the whole world, a sign of peace, but it also will mean that we, Greece and Turkey, will become a center of strength and of stability in the region.
However, these efforts were not enough to change the general negative mood in Turkish-Greek relations. Among the main causes of tensions between the countries is a deep distrust, shaped by historical traumas and the presence of unresolved problems in bilateral relations in connection with this distrust. The main problems in question include the Cyprus problem, the problems of minorities living in Western Thrace and Istanbul, the Patriarchate problem, and the Aegean problem. To protect the rights of the Turkish Cypriots on the island, Turkey participated in talks with Greece in the 1950s, talks which included Britain.
Do you think the conference will take a long time? We propose to make it a 3 days conference, and we hope that this is enough to solve all these problems.
These talks and mutual proposals reached a stalemate with increasing pressure from Greek-backed Greek Cypriots against the Turkish Cypriots and various massacres carried out against the Turkish Cypriots.
The most inhuman and barbaric of these unlawful acts of the insurgent regime in Cyprus, condoned by the Greek government, is doubtless the so-called economic blockade, which is in fact the policy of starvation now being applied in Cyprus. In a letter which I have requested to be circulated to the members of the Council, and which will be presently circulated, I trust, I have given an account of the latest situation as regards this inhuman measure.
Since then, the goal of the Turkish sector has been a two-party federation based on political equality. There were 234,000 Turks on the island previously, but there was a significant decrease in population after numerous migrations, attacks, and covert operations. After the Cyprus peace operation in March 1995, negotiations within the framework of the United Nations took many years to recover, but no tangible gains were achieved. The unresolved Cyprus problem was further complicated by another dispute between Turkey and Greece between 1996 and 1998. In January 1996, a flag war began between Turkey and Greece following a naval incident on the uninhabited Kardak Cliffs, about 4 nautical miles from Turkey's Aegean coast and about 8.8 kilometers from the Greek island of Kalymnos. First, the mayor of Kalymnos planted a Greek flag on the rocks. Turkey saw this as an act that indicated the Greeks were trying to claim sovereignty over the entire Aegean. In response to this move, a number of Turkish journalists landed on the island by helicopter, lowering the Greek flag and planting the Turkish flag. The Greeks responded harshly. This time, they came to the cliffs with their navy and surrounded it. The Greek siege of this island created a complete crisis in the Turkish capital Ankara. There was an urgent security meeting. The generals were ready to intervene. Prime Minister Tansu Çiller addressed the situation.
Bu bayrak iner, bu asker gider.
A solution was urgently needed. On the evening of 30th January 1996, a very important meeting was held in the capital with the participation of all the military commanders. There were 2 rocks in the area. It was suggested that the Turkish forces leave the empty cliffs opposite the island, which the Greeks had besieged. But capturing the cliffs would still be a very difficult operation. Prime Minister Tansu Çiller listened to the views of the military commanders. The generals said, "If you give the order, we'll put troops on the island." So, the button was pressed, and the operation began. A successful operation was carried out by the forces of the Underwater Offense Group. With the first light of day, joy and pride prevailed in Turkey, and resentment and bewilderment prevailed in Greece. A handful of Turkish commandos managed to sneak through dozens of Greek ships and cross the island besieged by the Greek Navy.
Bizim verilecek tek bir çakıl taşımız yoktur. Bir kayayı hiç vermeyiz. Ve dedim ki bu asker gidecektir, bu bayrak inecektir. Bugün itibariyle bu bayrak inmiştir, bu asker gitmiştir.
As a consequence of these events, the chief of the General Staff of Greece resigned. Upon the intervention of the United States and President Bill Clinton, troops were withdrawn from both islands, thus ending the crisis.
POWs and MIAs is to
On the other hand, Turkey has always followed pro-peace policies and called for peace.
We should assume that tensions are subsiding after this meeting. I think even that assumption will produce a lessening of tensions.
So you are optimistic about the prospects for patching up ties with Athens?
I think this is the start of talks. We had a talk between the two foreign ministers. We are going to have another talk in about a month, and in between our representatives will meet. I consider this a positive result, and I'm optimistic about the prospects.
Even up until today, Turkish-Greek relations have always created tensions in the region. These tensions have been further strained by a number of crimes against humanity and various misguided policies carried out by Greece. Greece claims to be the father of the European Union in terms of human rights and democracy, and they are often trying to teach other nations lessons in so-called humanity. Yet, the European Union does not even attempt to pay the money it has pledged in its agreement on refugees with Turkey, which hosts nearly 4 million refugees. Most of the European countries, including Greece, have built barbed wire fences and walls on their borders and are pursuing tough policies against refugees. Those who criticize the United States over its desire to build a wall on its borders are doing the same today. Many parts of Europe have huge barbed wire fences and walls to prevent the arrival of refugees. High barbed wire has been on the Turkey-Greece border since 2012. The EU countries, which have taken every means to prevent people from fleeing poverty and wars in their countries, will not allow their own welfare to be threatened either by financial agreements or by these crimes against humanity perpetuated against refugees. In recent years, Greece has planned to confine Turkey to its own shores, but these plans have been foiled by the Maritime Borders Authority Agreement between Turkey and Libya on 29 November 2019. According to this agreement, the numbers 16 and 17 parcels constitute the Turkish-Libyan border. Although the Athens administration has officially declared that the Greek islands have their own continental island areas, it has not informed the UN of the coordinates of these continental islands that it has assumed so far. Greece's refusal to identify the continental shelf areas it claims belong to the islands is behind the claim that it wants to reserve the rights to extend its territorial waters to 12 miles, stemming from its 1982 signing of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Turkey, which did not sign this agreement, announced in 1995 that it would accept Greece's territorial waters up to 12 miles as a cause for war. Turkey stresses that the maritime border with Greece, and therefore the borders of the two countries' continental shelves, have not yet been determined by an agreement. Ankara also points out that the eastern Aegean islands of Greece have been weaponized in contravention of the provisions of the 1923 Treaty of Lausanne and the 1947 Treaty of Paris. The problems between the two countries are multifaceted. Although Athens claims that there is only a question of determining the boundaries of the continental shelf between Turkey and Greece in the Aegean Sea. Although Turkey is not a party to the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, it is at peace with all the other provisions of the convention except the provision on the breadth of its territorial waters. Turkey is a country that clearly seeks and respects all of the rules of the convention. It is unlikely that the islands of Crete, Kassos, Rhodes, and Mace will be joined by a line to create a new shoreline for Greece, eliminating the associated coastline of Turkey's demarcation zone. Using the tiny island of Mace, Greece is trying to squeeze Turkey, its landlocked country 1,792 kilometers from the Mediterranean, into its territorial waters and seize Turkey's rights. At the same time, Greece is trying to exclude Turkey from the eastern Mediterranean by accepting Crete, Kassos, Rhodes, Mace as the relevant shoreline. Greece wants to imprison Turkey in the Gulf of Antalya. However, the claims of maritime jurisdiction it raises are contrary to international law. The Athens government's claims have no counterpart in international law. Greece, whose ambitions in the eastern Mediterranean have failed because of the Turkey-Libya Memorandum on Maritime Authority Borders, still continues with its familiar games. After this failure, Greece offered significant support to Pushist militant Khalifa Haftar in Libya. Greece supported a putschist that massacred the Libyan people against Turkey, which supports the internationally recognized government.
Yunanistan boş durmuyor. Çıkmış kuru sıkı atıyor. Yani bu kuru sıkı attığın ülke hangi ülke? Ya Türkiye'ye bu tür laf atılır mı? Sen kiminle dalga geçiyorsun? Biraz kendine çeki düzen ver, haddini bil. Yani sen eğer haddini bilmezsen Türkiye'nin yapacağı şey bellidir.
Greece, which opposes every movement in Turkey, this time warned against supporting the Biden administration's proposed military sales to Turkey.
The thing that NATO needs at a time when our focus is on helping Ukraine defeat Russia's aggression is another source of instability on NATO's southeastern flank.
The Greek premier did not lose the chance to criticize Turkey while he was addressing the U.S. Congress.
We will not accept open acts of aggression that violate our sovereignty and our territorial rights. And these include overflights over Greek islands, which must stop immediately.
Various issues have always pitted Turkey and Greece against each other over the last decades. Relations between the two NATO allies have been strained over territorial issues in the eastern Mediterranean, including airspace, energy, the status of some Aegean islands, and the Cyprus island. Turkish decision-makers have accused their Greek counterparts of letting third countries intervene between Turkey and Greece.
Biz bu yıl stratejik konsey toplantısı yapacaktık. Artık benim için Mitsotakis diye birisi yok. Kendisiyle böyle bir görüşmeyi de yapmayı asla kabul etmiyorum. Çünkü biz sözünde duracak şahsiyetli, onurlu siyasetçilerle yola gideriz.